The Monster in My Room is Acting Weird, Part 3, by Corvus 1992. It took me a while before I realized it, but eventually I figured out why the monster had been pouring its clear liquid substance into my orange juice for me to drink. Well, not why, but I know what it causes. If you remember, the first time I had noticed the cap was off the orange juice, I felt so tired not long after, and every night since then too. I'd been feeling tired so early. I went from wide awake to sleepy, to barely being able to lift my feet off the ground as I walked. Everything felt so heavy. Suffice it to say, I'm not drinking from anything left unattended ever again. My theory has been pretty much confirmed in the days since my last update. I'm still tired a lot, but more of a sleep-deprived, stress-induced tiredness that feels normal. I'm no longer getting in bed at 7 p.m., so it was definitely the monster. As for what it was putting in the orange juice, I don't like to dwell on it. It makes me sick. Maybe it's like a toxin. The less I think about it, the better. I only ended up staying at Tony's for one night. It was a mixture of feelings while I was there. Relief, definitely, and God knows I slept like a baby that night. But I felt so uneasy, wondering how far I could push things if I stayed away and made the monster suspicious. So it was with a very heavy heart and against Tony's advice that I went home the next day. It was fine for a little while. The noises continued. The monster still seemed to be looking worse and worse as the days went on. But apart from that, nothing new happened. I went to bed at a normal time, woke up every hour or two, saw nothing weird, went back to sleep. It's amazing what a person can live with when they try to make it part of their routine. I convinced myself that everything was normal. The new normal, that is. While at the same time waiting for something else to happen. But where I was expecting something sudden and terrifying, the something that happened was so gradual I didn't even notice it for a while. It was a smell. At first, I didn't smell anything different. Then it was the faintest scent of something unknown. I thought it was coming from outside, but after a couple days, it was so strong that I could tell it was coming from inside the house. Specifically the upstairs landing. I know what you're thinking, but no, it wasn't coming from the monster. The smell wasn't so strong in my bedroom, and downstairs it couldn't be smelled at all. I checked all of my rooms, and of course, there was nothing. The odor was like something rotten, like meat that had gone off, but much, much worse. The upstairs landing was quite overpowering. The stench was at its worst outside the smaller room that housed my computer, books, and some other things. That was its epicenter, and every step away from that point, the smell subsided a little bit. One night, I woke up at about 3:30 a.m. I did my routine, turned on the torch on my phone, turned over, and pointed it at the direction the monster usually is sitting. Only, there was nothing there. The light shone at an empty corner of my room. Heart racing, I moved the light around my room, thinking that this was it. The moment where the monster finally breaks our uneasy truce of pretense, and it becomes who it was always meant to be. Puts into action the outcome it's been patiently waiting for nearly 3 decades. But for only the second time in my life, I was alone in my room. The first time I'd been absolutely terrified. But this time, I felt elated. Hoping it had gone to crawl away and die. Perhaps starve to death, and that would explain the baggy skin. But my joy turned putrid with fear when I heard scraping. Slow, heavy, and deliberate. I pictured the monster crawling, using its front limbs to drag its half-lame lower body, as I'd seen in the video not long ago. The scraping was moving itself closer and closer, the sound growing louder and that was when I could tell where it was coming from. Not outside my room, but above me. Remember when I said the smell was strongest outside the smaller upstairs room? On the ceiling, just outside of that room, is a small door to the attic. Had it been doing this every night, or had it been waiting for its sleep-inducing substance to force me into a sleep deep enough that it could move around with the confidence that I wouldn't wake up and notice? I don't know, and I wasn't sure what to do because I felt like the right thing to do depended on the answer to those questions. If I had been doing this every night, then staying in my bed and pretending to sleep through it, as I'd slept through all the other times, was the best thing to do. But if this was the first time, then why was it moving? What was it doing just above my room that couldn't wait until I left my house? Surely my best bet would be to run for it. But I didn't. I was so afraid I couldn't even move. I just lied there, frozen with fear, except for my entire body trembling. I learned just how big a coward I am that night. The scraping continued above me for a couple of minutes, and then stopped. A few moments of silence, and then I heard something else. Crunching, it sounded like. And then an ugly sound, like choking and sputtering. I wondered if maybe it was dying, but of course, I'm not that lucky. The noise eventually stopped, and after a short pause, the scraping began again, moving away from my room, back to the door to the attic. As quietly as I could, I turned myself back around in bed and closed my eyes tightly, half hoping it would all be okay, half waiting for my own death. The 5 or so minutes it took for the monster to finally reach my room felt like hours. The door opened softly, with the slightest creak, then a thump as the monster hit the floor. A soft creak told my ears that the door was being shut again. I could feel my heart beating so hard that it felt like my entire body was moving to its rhythm, betraying me to the monster, as though my furious heartbeat was a beacon, calling out to it. The monster was dragging itself, not to its corner, but towards my bed. I wasn't facing the monster, but I still kept my eyes tightly shut, waiting for, I don't know, but some kind of pain. There was a noise, not unlike a shuffling sound, right behind me. Then something slightly wet and cold touched the back of my head, and before I could even contemplate what it was, I felt a sharp, stinging pain in the same location. I didn't react. Thank God I didn't react. Somehow, the shock of the pain was instantaneously subdued by my survival instinct. Then the monster dragged itself back to its corner, and didn't move or bother me for the rest of the night. I know this for certain because I didn't sleep at all after that. I waited for 2 hours, long enough to pretend I'd been asleep the whole time, and then got out of bed, got my things, and left. While I was in the shower, I felt the back of my head. I could feel some raised bumps, maybe scabs, but I wasn't too sure. It freaked me out, but I was more scared of what it injected me with. I figured it was like the orange juice. Maybe it knew I'd stopped drinking it, so now it had to stab me with it directly. Yet again, it was filled with so many questions, with no hope of answers. Usually in this situation, Tony would be my first port to call. But we were both working that day, so neither of us could meet up with one another. So desperate as I was, I went to see my mom after work. She's a worrier, and I hadn't gone over there in quite a long time. So I justified it by telling myself that she'd be happy to see me. It'll put her mind at ease. Sadly, the first words out of her mouth were, "You look sick, do you feel okay?" I smiled and told her I was fine, just not sleeping very well. We chatted for a bit, about our days, normal things, and I tried to keep going, but in the front of my mind the whole time, that question was gnawing at me, trying to make its way through my vocal cords, and of my mouth. Mom, do I have anything on the back of my head? I asked, as my mom had barely finished her sentence about running into my old nursery teacher. What, like some food stuck there? She laughed. No, I think I feel some lumps. Can you have a look for me? I stood up and turned around so she was facing the back of my head. Maybe an allergic reaction, I said, not wanting her to worry about the cause. Okay, let me check, she replied, and stood up. I felt her fingers parting my hair here and there to have a better look. Oh my god, I heard her whisper. Nate, you're covered in them. What have you eaten? I'm not sure, I muttered, not calm enough to make up a reason. What does it look like? Just loads of little bumps with a mark in the center of them. Maybe you have bed bugs. I think they might make marks like that. I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, that's probably it. I'll get home and sort it out. Thanks, Mom. My response was automatic, words that came without thought, as my mind was dwelling on the monster. I rushed out of my mom's house faster than I probably should have. I didn't run away or anything, but I made hasty excuses as to why I had to go, and left with a quick goodbye. It didn't matter, though. Making sure my mom didn't worry about me was the least of my concerns at that moment. That damn monster had been biting me in my sleep. Was it feeding on me? Was it injecting me with something? I had no idea, but it was definitely doing something. All this time I'd been thinking we were in some kind of stalemate, where neither of us could act on the other without shattering the fantasy that everything was exactly as it should be. No, I'd been the idiot pretending everything was normal, while it was actively doing something to me. Well, that era is over. It's time for me to stop being so passive and wishing it'd right itself. It's time for me to venture into the attic. Assuming I survive, I'll post an update as soon as I can. Hey guys, 4ShotBot here. Thank you for watching this creepypasta. I hope you guys had a good Christmas and a good New Year's Eve. And I'm getting back on schedule after all the stuff that's been going on. So I appreciate you guys sticking around. And I'll see you guys in the next one.